Hey guys, I finally finished Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, The Hammer of Thor by Rick Riordan. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. This book starts off very action-packed with Magnus meeting Sam at a cafe to meet Sam's informant on information on where to find Thor's hammer. And this informant ends up being Otis, who shows up in his definition of incognito, which is a trench coat, hat, and glasses, and going by the name Otis. No one's gonna guess who that is. Especially not the assassin that's been following him. And just as Otis is about to give Magnus a warning for Sam, he gets an axe in the frickin' back. It's like, poor Otis. He just can't catch a break. He's constantly being killed. And as if trying to find a goat assassin isn't hard enough, now we have to throw in this new kid in Valhalla that's causing a whole mess of trouble. Which kind of makes sense since it's a child of Loki. Alex is a very interesting character. I've never read any books where a character is gender fluid, and I really didn't know anything about what gender fluid meant until I read this book. And I have to say, it kind of confuses me when I'm trying to talk about Alex because I'm not sure if I refer to her as a he or she or what. So I'm really confused, but it seems that she's a girl most of the time, so if I refer to her, I'm just gonna say her name or she. The only real similarities between Alex and Sam is their demigod abilities, otherwise they are completely different. And other than the fact that Loki can seem to control Sam, but he can't Alex, which is very interesting, and I hope we learn a lot more about that in the third book. And no one seems to have any respect for Alex, both for the fact that she's gender fluid and the fact that she's a child of Loki. Which, granted, they haven't had many good experiences with children of Loki, but I mean, they really shouldn't have judged her just because she was gender fluid. But after they watch her death on Valkyrie Vision, they quickly learn some respect, because the girl earned her place in Valhalla. And seeing Alex's Valkyrie Vision tape also let us see that Sam isn't perfect. Sam was an expert at trigonometry, calculus, and aviation, so you'd think she could figure out how to use a camera. Nope. She always forgot when to turn it on and off. Half the time her videos came out sideways because she'd clipped the camera on wrong. Sometimes she recorded entire missions where the camera showed nothing but her own nostrils. And in tonight's video, she started off recording a little too early, so we get to see a really tense moment between her grandparents, and Amir. And then after all of this and a good night's sleep, we finally are reunited with Hearth and Blitz. Which, am I the only one that's shipping them like so hard right now? Because I think they would just make the cutest couple. They're both always so worried about each other, and there was one point where Blitz called Hearth my elf, and it was just so cute. But after we're reunited with them, the quest has finally begun. And in the most political way possible, they get sucked into the tomb of the Dragir? I don't know how to say the name for these. Let's just call them zombies. But they're here looking for the hammer, but they end up accidentally freeing the Skofnug sword. I don't know how to say the sword's name either. Norse mythology has the weirdest pronunciation for words ever. But freeing this sword is exactly what Loki wanted, and for him to convince them to get the stone that goes along to sharpen the sword, he has Magnus's uncle Randolph stab Blitz with it. And the only way to heal any kind of wound made by this sword is to have the stone. So they really have no choice but to go get it, which sadly means a trip to Ephelem, the world of elves. You know, and I had to say, Magnus's solution for saving Blitz at this point was very smart. I mean, turning him to stone. I forgot dwarves even turn to stone. And I read the book like not even a week or so ago. So I don't know how I forgot. Probably because it never actually came up until this point. But he turns him into solid stone, but has no way of knowing how to turn him back to normal. I mean, he was going to die anyway. So, man, there's really nothing he could have done otherwise than to turn him to stone to buy them time. But I don't know, it was smart, but it was also a little bit hasty. And how they got to Ephelem was very surprising. I didn't think they would actually fly over it and just poof out of the airplane. I mean, how does that work? I mean, do you actually have to want to go to Ephelem? I'm kind of assuming that's what it is. Otherwise, Sam would have went poof as well. And I was really looking forward to going to Ephelem, the city of elves, and it was all high technology and everything. But what we got was very unexpected and kind of a letdown. Not because of Rick Riordan's writing. Not because of that at all. Because these elves were so freaking rude. And Hearth's father, Adderman, he took the cake. I think the only useful information we got from the guy was that fresh running water can unpetrify a dwarf, which we did need to know that, so that was kind of worth the trip right there. And, of course, the stone that we needed. But after seeing the way Hearth lived when he was living with his parents, and exactly how his father treated him, blaming him for both his brother's death and now his mother's death, it's just, I wanted to throttle the guy. And he wasn't even going to give Hearth the stone until he paid back his blood debt. He has to cover this blue fur carpet in his room with gold coins. And we learn later that this animal was the animal that killed his brother. So he's literally paying for his brother's death. And if I'm right, Hearth was 10 at the time. It makes you wonder how Hearth didn't turn out really warped after having to deal with that. I mean, his parents already hated him because he was deaf. So yeah, his dad definitely deserved to be controlled by a cursed dwarf ring. The only bad thing is we're going to have to go back there one day to get the inheritance rune. Then after this very stressful otherworldly trip, we go back to Midgard, where Magnus convinces Amir that the Bifrost Bridge actually exists. And they take him to meet Heimdall, I think that's the god's name. And let me just say, I thought this god was that giant horn that blew during their feast. And the reason I thought this was because under the god's name and information, the picture is a horn. I didn't understand why they have a picture of a horn in here if he's actually looks human. So that was kind of annoying. Much like the god himself, he should have been the god of selfies, because that's all he does. He was more than kind of annoying, and I really just didn't want to be around him very much. I was kind of glad when we got to leave, and I was borderline homicidal when both him and Thor turn up at the very end to help them with the giants and Loki. It's like one of them was bad enough. I think the only useful male gods we've met to this point is Frey and Vidar. And I loved Vidar. Not only does he use sign language to communicate, but he's actually more serious than I've seen any of the gods so far. But Heimdall does come a little in handy because he does tell us that Utgard Loki was the assassin. So now they're off to the giant world, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the name of it. And they get to go bowling. Utgard Loki makes them do challenges to prove their worth. And all of them find some way to get around them because giants like to cheat and humiliate their competition. So Sam ends up stabbing Fear. Hearth blows a giant away at video arcade games. Blitz, in typical Blitz form, gives a giant a makeover. And Magnus and Alec have to do a double bowl challenge, which I was very concerned at this point because I was like, how are they going to do this? It's like their bowling balls aren't even making it near the pins. But it turned out to be an illusion and like a portal. And to get past this illusion slash portal thing, Magnus and Alex have to hold hands, which was super cute. And we get to see inside Alex's head. It was very interesting, and I hope we get to learn more about her character in a less intrusive way, because you can understand why she is the way she is from everything that we saw, because she lived a really messed up life. Moving on to something a little happier. Since they won all of their challenges and kind of humiliated all the giants, but also won somewhat of their respect, they're given 5 minutes to hear Utgard Loki out about how he could help them, which ends up not being very helpful at all. And Sif, Thor's wife of all people, end up helping them out of the giant world and into Asgard. And this is where we learn that Alex and Sam planned on switching places during the wedding. And I like how at first Alex didn't like Sif very much, and by the end of this little trip and after she's gotten a full-blown wedding makeover, they both decide that maybe they judged each other too harshly and they should start over. And it was just so cute. It was like Sif wasn't a goddess. She was just a normal person at that point, you know, just one with gold spun hair. Then a Taco Bell and a Cheers bar later, we are in Loki's cavern. And this is where we learn that Alex can also shapeshift to look like people. And we're pretty much almost at the end of the wedding ceremony when Thyram, I don't know, the Earth Giant King, he summons the hammer under Alex's insistence, and Alex finally snaps. Which I'm surprised she didn't snap beforehand. I would have snapped as soon as that ring had even gotten near my finger. And when she snaps, all hell breaks loose. They not only had to fight this horde of giants, but they also have to watch Randolph and make sure he doesn't use the Skofnir whatever sword to free Loki. Which, since it's only the three of them, this doesn't go very well. Especially since Loki can control Sam, and she's not even able to fight at this point. And they're saved from certain death by the cavalry arriving in the form of his Hallway 19 mates, Hearth and Blitz. And even though they win the fight, Loki is ultimately set free. After freeing Loki, Randolph pays the price because you're not to draw the sword in the presence of women, and he did anyways. So it ends up dissolving his body. I believe that's what's going on. After all the bad he's done, Magnus still tries to save him. And when you think about it, I mean, even though he didn't know Randolph, he was still family. So if I was in that position, I would hope that I would do the same thing. And even though Magnus tries to convince Randolph that they are family, he still wants to see his wife and children again, so he ultimately just decides to die. So I guess Loki kept his word to let him see his family in the end. He just forgot to mention that it would be in hell. Then we're back to Valhalla, and Sam gets her new mission from Odin, which is to locate and recapture Loki. So nothing too difficult. And we've learned that he's gone to the Ship of Nails in the Eastern Shore, which I have to say, the Ship of Nails sounds really disgusting. Who in their right minds would want to set sail in a ship made of fingernails and toenails? Then we have the last chapter where Magnus and Annabeth are filling each other in on what all has happened. I'm assuming this book takes place during the second book in the Trials of Apollo series, because I really need to reread the Trials of Apollo, because I'm not sure if the communication problems they were talking about happened in the first book. I'm pretty sure it did, but I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I read the book. But the best thing is that the third book in the Magnus Chase series, the Ship of the Dead, is going to take place during the summer, and Annabeth said that they should be graduated by then and they can help. So hopefully we're going to see a lot more of Annabeth, and if we're lucky, we may see Percy as well, because this last sentence literally had me screaming with joy. I don't know the ocean very well, but my boyfriend does. I think it's time you met Percy. Yes, please. Please, please. Rick Riordan, you can't tease us with that and then not bring Percy into the last book. Please. I mean, it may just be for the first couple chapters that he's in the book. He may only, give them tips or whatever on how to sail the sea. But I would hope that he would sail with them. Because as we know, even though Magnus is the grandson of one of the sea gods, which really don't know how that works out since Poseidon's the god of the sea, but whatever, my brain hurts enough already trying to think of this crap. But Magnus, he can prevent boats from sinking, but he gets like horribly seasick, so he's not really going to do us much good, at least out to sea. So we really, really need Percy, or at least I need Percy. I'm going into Percy withdrawal. I am super hyped for the third and final book of this trilogy. So those are all my thoughts, opinions, and feelings about Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, the Hammer of Thor. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!